John, do some quick math with me. It seems to me that Donald Trump is about 40 points lower than the average president at this particular point. He has the second worst net approval rating at this point. He is underwater on all the major issues of the day. The bottom line is 6 months into this administration, I think that most Americans would apply the word or words disaster, terrible, awful, horrible.
As people continue to talk about this whole Jeffrey Epstein debacle, I do think it's important for us to remember that there are people in our country today who are still being hurt by Donald Trump. I mean, he has injected so much uncertainty into our markets with these tariffs that businesses don't even know how to react. Prices are ticking back up at the fastest rate since the beginning of the year. Inflation is going up. And then, of course, one of the more important topics to me is that we still have this Gestapo-like ICE agency rolling into communities, masks up, and basically kidnapping people without any due process at all, sending them off to the Gator Gulag down in Florida. And while I do understand that the whole Jeffrey Epstein story is very politically damaging to Donald Trump, I also think it's important that we don't lose sight of all of these other issues that deeply impact the American people. Now, luckily for you and me, the American people just don't like what they see right now. They are unhappy with Donald Trump and what he is trying to do to our country. So much, in fact, that he is now at his lowest approval rating in his second term. If you guys do appreciate my work, please do remember to subscribe.
So the president says things are great. What do the voters say?
No, I think is the answer. 6 months in, the rules of political gravity absolutely apply to Donald Trump, and the USS Donald Trump is taking on a lot of water. What are we talking about? Trump's net approval rating. Look, he started off back in January +6 points on the net approval rating, -3 in March, -7 in May, and now he's at a term too low at -11 points. His net approval rating has dropped nearly 20 points in the aggregate since the beginning of his presidency. The American people do not like what they're seeing, and Donald Trump's administration is in a ton of trouble at this point in the minds of the American voters.
Well,
yeah, he is down nearly 20 points in the aggregate. And I've said it once and I'll say it again. When Donald Trump got into office for the second time, people were trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. You could see in January he was at a +6 net approval rating. Now, of course, people like you and me, we're not registering there, of course, and we had no hopes that he was going to do anything great for this country. But a lot of these independent voters, a lot of these Republicans who don't necessarily like Trump as a guy, who wanted to give him a chance, they were trying to give him the benefit of the doubt. And he has just squandered all of it. And you might just think that, oh, well, maybe it's the immigration, or maybe it's this whole Jeffrey Epstein thing. Maybe that's why his approval rating is going down. But no. Donald Trump is down on almost every single issue. He is down on every single major issue that we keep track of.
Well, on what issues do the American voters seem to disapprove of him?
They disapprove of him on all of the issues. He's underwater on all the major issues of the day. Trump's net approval rating on all the major issues, -5 points on immigration, his best issue. He's underwater. How about the economy? That was what he was elected for. -14 points. How about foreign policy? -14 points. How about trade and those tariff wars? -15 points. And of course, the Epstein case, the lowest of the bunch, -37 points, 37 points below water. My goodness gracious. On every single issue, Donald Trump is below water on all the major ones. They're all dragging him down. No matter, it seems, what Donald Trump does, the American people do not like it. And that is why at this particular point, he's at a term too low.
It's interesting.
Now, I think this is excellent news. The American people are finally starting to wake up. They're looking at what Donald Trump is trying to do to this country, and they're saying, yeah, we don't want any part of this. But the crazy part is that he's even underwater on his best issue, immigration. People liked his hardline stance on immigration before he got elected for a second time. But now that he's got an office and he's starting to crack heads, we've got a brutalizing ICE agency who is rolling into neighborhoods with their masks on. People are like, yeah, this is not what America is supposed to be. He is underwater on his best issue. And then if we look at the Epstein case, I mean, have we seen worse numbers for any particular issue? He is 37 points underwater on the whole Jeffrey Epstein issue. So I do think it's important that we keep on hammering away at that story. Not only does it implicate Donald Trump as the corrupt character that he is, But Donald Trump and his administration, they are now the deep state. And as most of you guys know, they have been rallying or railing against the deep state for years and years and years now. And now that he came into office and he is that deep state, and there is a lack of transparency around this whole Jeffrey Epstein files thing, the American people are like, what the hell, dude? What is going on? You said you were going to rally against the establishment. You said you were going to come into government and you were going to fix all of these broken things. But turns out you're as deep as the deepest of the swamp goes. I mean, it is absolutely stunning to me. But like I said, it is good news. Donald Trump is terrible for this country. He's down 14 points on the economy. That's what you get when you invoke national emergencies to give yourself the unilateral authority to implement these asinine tariffs. People don't like him on that. His foreign policy, he's flip-flopping on. He said he was going to end the war in Ukraine on day one. He totally botched that. I mean, on every single major issue, Donald Trump is underwater. So that is good news for us on the left. And while I do think it is important that we still hammer on this Jeffrey Epstein files story because it does seem uniquely politically damaging to him, we should also remember that there are a whole other array of issues that people care about in this country. Now, what I was surprised by is that there is a little bit of good news, I guess you could say, for Donald Trump, but it's kind of funny. Just watch how Harry Enton puts this good news for Trump.
Where does his overall approval rating stand compared to other presidents?
Okay, I do have one piece of good news for Donald Trump, and that there is one other presidency that has a lower net approval rating at this point than this one. The bad news is that it was Donald Trump's other presidency, his first presidency, net approval rating 6 months in. The worst was in 2017. Donald Trump was 16 points underwater. The second worst, however, is this Donald Trump presidency, 11 points underwater. The average president at this point since 1953 has a plus 27 net approval rating. John, do some quick math with me. It seems to me that Donald Trump is about 40 points lower than the average president at this particular point. He has the second worst net approval rating at this point. He is underwater on all the major issues of the day. The bottom line is 6 months into this administration, I think that most Americans would apply the word or words disaster, terrible, awful, horrible. I think that is the way that the American people would see it at this particular point. He is so far below underwater compared to the average president. The only one he beats out is him in term number one. And I don't think that's exactly the metric he wants to be applying to himself.
So the only person Donald Trump could beat as far as his net approval rating goes was Donald Trump in his first term. And if you look here, you've got the average president is plus 27 when they are 6 months in to their term. Donald Trump is just uniquely unpopular. Now, he was negative 16 in his first term. He is now negative 11. We are 6 months in. And I really don't know how to read that because, you know, in the first term, I think there was a lot of surprise that Donald Trump even got elected, that we would even elect such a buffoon as Donald Trump. I think people were surprised, and maybe that's why he was experiencing a lower approval rating now. Now that it is, another 4 or 5 years, people have got a little bit more used to Donald Trump. I think he, in the right-wing media ecosystem, has been able to garner a lot of support of maybe people who weren't necessarily registering politics before on their radar. Maybe that is why these numbers are a little bit out of whack. But I do think it's pretty hilarious that the only person Donald Trump could beat out was Donald Trump in his first term. He is just a uniquely bad president, and the American people just do not like what they see here. Now, you might think that this is really great news. You know, Democrats, they should have a really good chance of cleaning house in the midterms. I would probably agree to that sentiment somewhat, but I was really surprised to see that when we check out the generic ballot for the Democrats right now, it is not something to call home about.
the bottom line is this. Democrats are behind their 2006 and 2018 paces when it comes to the generic congressional ballot. What are we talking about here? All right, the Democrats versus the Republicans on the generic congressional ballot, the margins. Look at where we are now. Democrats are ahead, but by just 2 points. Look at where Democrats were already ahead by in 2017. They were behind by 7 points. How about 2005 on the generic congressional ballot? Ahead by 7 points, ahead by 7 points, and now they're only ahead by 2 points. Their lead is less than half of where it was in either 2017 or 2005 in July of those years, the year before the midterm election. Yes, Donald Trump may be unpopular, but Democrats have not come anywhere close to sealing the deal at this particular point.
Yeah, so that is not great. We are only sitting at a +2 on the generic congressional ballot. That means the Democrats have a ton of work to do. Now, I will say, Democrats, I think they were caught off guard when Donald Trump got elected for a second time, even though maybe they shouldn't have been. I don't think that there was any strategy in place to combat a second term Donald Trump. And I think this approval rating on the generic ballot really comes down to people are just frustrated with the Democratic Party right now. They don't have a strategy moving forward. A lot of people feel like the Democrats are not pushing back sufficiently enough against this authoritarian takeover that we are currently witnessing by Donald Trump. And I think the American people are just angry with that. We want fighters in the Democratic Party. We want people who are going to be able to stand up to Donald Trump. That is why we are seeing people like Gavin Newsom in California, who has really been stepping up his game over the past month or two. I mean, his polling is shooting through the roof right now. Those are the types of people that we need in this moment. I mean, we are seeing this Democratic backsliding like we have never, ever seen before in this country. And people want a resistance party who is actually going to fight back against the wannabe authoritarian who just got into office. So I will say, it's only been 6 months. I know it takes a little while for the losing party to maybe gain their traction or whatever, gain their footing. But they need to figure it out fast because the midterms are right around the corner. They need to capitalize on all of this unpopular sentiment heading Donald Trump's way and figure out a good, coherent strategy to pick these voters off to make sure that we are actually cleaning house in the midterm elections. So we will definitely keep an eye on it, guys. Donald Trump is underwater on every single major issue. He has lost about 20 points since the beginning of his presidency, and still not quite as unpopular as he was in his first term. And the Democrats, they've got a lot of work to do to make sure that we are cleaning house come the 2026 midterms. So I will leave it there for now, guys. If you guys got anything out of this video, please do remember to smash that like button and subscribe. Maybe share with a friend or two. I'd very much appreciate that. We are trying to build something here on the left that pushes back against this right-wing media ecosystem that just helps launder all of these authoritarian tendencies coming from Donald Trump and his administration day in and day out. So if you do like what I do here, please do remember to smash that subscribe button. Of course, that is free. We also just launched a Substack over at politiscape.substack.com. If you want to help me push back against this MAGA media machine, you can help support my work over there. It would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, guys, I will see you guys on the next one.